So one of the things that we thought would be a great idea, particularly in the Canadian market, was to get an understanding of what the Canadian IT and executive professional community thought about the cloud. There's a ton of reasons why we should be interested in this, and some of those will be spelled out in the survey. The cloud doesn't have that beautiful, compelling, burning platform driving us to it. Or does it? If you think about it, we're no longer competing with other IT organizations. We're no longer trying to be better than last year's distributed application or last year's internet application. We are now competing with companies who are provisioning IT capabilities at the swipe of a credit card. Nothing profound here, right? About 2/3 of the people, when asked, said, hey, cloud is very important. Which is an interesting question to ask before you say, do you know what it is? So, whether or not they know what it is, 2/3 of the people say, well, hell yeah, it's important. How confused are you by the concept? All right? And again, as you would expect, business executive 2/3 said, very confused. So think about this, very confused, current economic environment, not nearly as dramatic in Canada as it is in US and other parts of the world, particularly Europe right now, right? CFOs are going to the CIOs, CEOs are going to the CIOs, and the board is going to the CIO and say, I need you to cut, whatever, $175 million out of your budget. I need you to cut 20% of your budget. And what have the CIOs done in response to that? 9 times out of 10, they said, okay, I'll do it. They said, okay, I'll do it. What happened after that? This is the tragic part. What happened after they said, I'll cut it by 25%? Nothing. Nothing happened. So you know what everyone thinks? Prior to this, the IT organization was wasting that 25%. It says, how can you reduce your spend by 25% and everything's still working? What no one realizes is that strategic spend is what got cut. Because the other 75, 85% was keeping the lights on, right? You can't shave that down. So sure, the SLAs are fine, but are we compromising our strategic advantages in the future by shaving the dollars down? Parallel with that cut for the IT budget, the demand for a service-oriented IT solution stack has gone up dramatically. Less dollars chasing more sophisticated and complex solutions. The IT folks, right, 23% say they're confused about the cloud.
What are, say, the top 2 or 3 things that companies can do to really help prepare themselves to adopt cloud? What are some of the best practices? What are some of the key steps? What are some of the initiatives internally that companies can do to help prepare themselves?
I have a definition of what I think the cloud is today and what I think eventually it's going to be. My view is that today the cloud is 3 words: managed IT services. And this word IT in the center, you can slice that into a stack of the 6 components which makes IT. Whether it's the channels, the telecom, the application, the platform, or the storage space. And the 6th one, if you're wondering what that is, that's the services, including ITIL and all this stuff. The second definition, where we're going to it, and I really believe that that's probably, if it succeeds, it will end up to be what I call IT dial tone, or for short, IT tone. All you need is a plug into the wall, and on the other side of that wall, the entire set of IT services will be available to us. What is it that we need to do to prepare ourselves? I think the first thing you need to do, you need to understand your own business. You need to understand your own practice, your own IT practice in total. And you need to understand how much it costs you today and what is the value you're getting out of it. You need to be absolutely clear about where you are vis-a-vis the investment and the value you're drawing out of your IT investment today. And then you need to look at the industry. You need to understand like what's happening out there, who are you dealing with.
I think in some ways it's kind of odd when we think about cloud and it's out there and it's everywhere. I'm here in part to say that location matters. And where the cloud exists matters an awful lot, I think, when it comes to issues around privacy and compliance related concerns, and the kinds of concerns that Canadians have about what happens to their personal information once they put it up in that cloud is being reflected, it seems like, among some of the same executives that are thinking about whether or not they ought to implement some of these sorts of solutions. There's actually, I think, a real opportunity in this country. I think in some ways we have some competitive advantages as compared to a number of other countries, particularly the United States. That would allow Canada to become a cloud leader. From a privacy perspective, I think actually some of our privacy regulators, or more accurately our privacy commissioners, have been leaders on a global basis when it comes to thinking about the cloud. We've also, secondly, got our framework in place. And when, hopefully I'll have a chance to talk a bit more about this, but when you start thinking about what are some of the privacy rules that are needed to provide the sorts of assurances people are looking for that their information is secure. Questions around accountability of the information, access to the information both by the person whose information it is, as well as access by law enforcement or other groups who might have access without the disclosure. We've got rules situated around that sort of thing, and I think that makes a big difference. And we've also, and thirdly, we've got some rules potentially on the way. And I'm thinking in particular of Bill C-29, which is the reform to PIPEDA, which is currently at its second reading in the House of Commons, which I think quite critically includes breach notification requirements.
If we look back 5 years ago, IT was the sole source of a lot of what was going on, or maybe there were some outsourced contracts, but there was this business goes to IT, waits a few months, and gets back what they need. That's changed. Business may or may not go to IT anymore. We believe that IT and the role of the CIO needs to remain very much inserted in that conversation. More so, the role of IT is to be the service broker for the sourcing decisions of anything related to IT in the enterprise. And that's behind a lot of what we're trying to drive here in the cloud business for CA. So if you're a CIO and you're sitting there, really three things I'd point out that you want to do. The first one is understand exactly what it is you have in the context of your business. What is it? What do I need? And what's available out there? Right? So that's number one. Number two is be able to implement something internally, if it makes sense, that might be a better cloudy type solution to then be able to provide maybe more secure or high responsiveness for internal needs on par with external needs. And then the third piece is just being able to stay on top of it, monitor it, manage it, and make those decisions in a dynamic fashion on an ongoing basis.